Hi, I am Joel and I am the pastor at Faith Church, and I wanted to talk with you today about a little known story from the life of the prophet Jeremiah. In fact, as I was reading this story this week, I know I've read this book before, but I did not remember this story. And it got me thinking about this phrase, trust the process. Maybe you've heard that before. A lot of times sports teams will use this phrase, trust the process. If they're terrible and they need to rebuild their team and they just keep losing games, but they've got a plan. They maybe are going to draft certain free agents. Maybe they are going to try and get high draft picks in the next year. Maybe they're going to try and get some new staff. Trust the process, and they say in a few years' time, they're going to have a winning team. But trust is difficult when things do not look like they're going well. What about when you keep losing? What about when it seems like this process is not working out? The first year, the second year, the third year, what do? How do you continue trusting? What is the right kind of trust to have? Well, in this story, I think we're going to get an insight about trust. So the context of this story is found in the very end of the book of Jeremiah. In fact, Jeremiah chapter 40 and 41. What has just happened in Jeremiah 39 is that the armies of Babylon have come and laid siege to the city of Jerusalem for the second time, and this time, rather than just carting off 10,000 exiles, they destroy the city and they take away almost everyone. All they leave behind is a small remnant of people to work the land, to try and produce the honey and the oil and the wine from the fields that are there as a benefit to Babylon. And to accomplish this, they leave a man in charge. His name is Gedaliah. And Gedaliah is kind of like the governor of these Jewish remnants that are there to work the land. Well, in chapter 40, we learn that one of these Jewish men, a man named Johanan, finds out that another Jewish man named Ishmael has been sent to assassinate Gedaliah. It seems like Ishmael is in league with one of the regional smaller powers, the Ammonites. And they believe that if they can assassinate Gedaliah, maybe they can capture some of the people and free them away from the Babylonians, from what is happening there in the devastation. Maybe they can enter into this vacuum of power that the Babylonians have left behind, and they can benefit from it. They're real opportunists. Well, here's the problem. When Jehonan comes to Gedaliah and says, Ishmael is on his way to assassinate you, Gedaliah says this, as we read in Jeremiah chapter 41, verse 13. Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, did not believe him. And then Johanan, son of Kareah, said privately to Gedaliah in Mishpah, let me go and kill Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, and no one will know it. Why should he take your life and cause all the Jews who are gathered around you to be scattered and the remnant of Judah to perish? But Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, said to Johanan, don't do such a thing. What you are saying about Ishmael is not true. Gedaliah doesn't believe him. Gedaliah does not trust that what Johanan has discovered about Ishmael is true. What does he know about Ishmael, or what does he know about Johanan that would make Gedaliah want to avoid this? Well, is his trust a wise move or not a wise move? Here's what happens. In chapter 41, verse 1, it says, in the 7th month, Ishmael, who was of royal blood and had been one of the king's officers, came with 10 men to Gedaliah at Mishpah. While they were eating together there, Ishmael and the 10 men who were with him got up and struck down Gedaliah with the sword, killing the one whom the king of Babylon had appointed as governor over the land. Ishmael also killed all the Jews who were there, as well as the Babylonian soldiers who were there. The day after Gedaliah's assassination, before anyone knew of it, 80 men who had shaved off their beards, torn their clothes, and cut themselves from Shechem, Shiloh, and Samaria, bringing grain offerings and incense with them to the house of the Lord. Ishmael went out from Mizpah to meet them, weeping as he went. When he met them, he said, "Come to Gedaliah." When they went to the city, Ishmael and the men who were with him slaughtered the 80 men, threw them into a cistern. Ishmael made captives of all the rest of the people who were in Mizpah, the king's daughters, along with all the others who were left there, over whom the Babylonians had appointed Gedaliah. Ishmael took them captive and set out to cross over to the Ammonites. So what we see in here, Gedaliah was wrong. For whatever reason, he did not want to trust Jehonan and this message that he had received that Ishmael was coming to kill Gedaliah. And not only did Gedaliah lose his life, but so did the Jews who were with him. So did the Babylonian soldiers. So did these 80 men who were trying to make a sincere offering to the Lord because of what had just happened by the Babylonians. It was a massacre. It was devastation. Well, thankfully there is a little bit of good news at the end of the story. We read starting in verse 11 that when Johanan and all the army officers who were with him heard about all the crimes Ishmael had committed, they took all their men and went to fight Ishmael. They caught up with him near the great pool in Gibeon. When all the people Ishmael had with him saw Johanan and the army officers who were with him, they were glad. All the people Ishmael had taken captive at Mizpah turned and went over to Johanan. But Ishmael and 8 of his men escaped and fled to the Ammonites. And so what we see in the end of the story is that Johanan was a faithful servant. He was someone who could be trusted. He was telling the truth about Ishmael, and he not only did that, but he came and rescued the people at the very end. And so that brings us back to the idea of trust. Gedaliah refused to trust Johanan. Instead, he trusted this instinct or this sense that he had about Ishmael. It got me thinking that sometimes we can have a misplaced trust. Sometimes we can trust our own sense of understanding, our own sense of evaluating people. We can think that we are more able than we actually are. I get it. Our world is based in trust. This past spring, I went to India. And to actually travel to India, I never talked to a single person. I just got on the computer and booked my flights. Never talked to them on the phone, never got any paper tickets. All I got was an email. And so when we got to the airport in Delhi to board or to check in for a new flight, all I had was an email on my phone. And the guard at the door scanned my phone and it didn't work. And I thought, oh my, have I just made a huge mistake in trusting this computer system from this Indian airline? But thankfully, he checked our passport against the email and everything seemed to match up, so he waved us through, and sure enough, we went to the check-in counter and everything was fine. We got our boarding passes and we made our flights. But trust is difficult because sometimes either we have our own inflated sense of our ability to understand people and we can be too trusting. Sometimes we can be not trusting enough. In this story, we learned that Gedaliah had an inflated sense of his own ability to evaluate a situation where he should have trusted in Johanan. He should have had teachability. He should have had some humility. He should have been able to think to himself, maybe I don't know the whole picture here. Maybe my ability to evaluate Ishmael is not what it should be. Maybe I could trust in Johanan that he knows something here that I don't. But it seems that Gedaliah was captured by his pride and his arrogance, and that led him not to trust. It also led to the massacre of many people. And so my encouragement to you as I think about this story is to ask you to evaluate, where is your trust? Is it in an overinflated sense of yourself and your abilities, or are you able to say, I need to learn more. I need to think more about this. I need help. Maybe I might be wrong. I encourage you to think about what it means to be teachable and humble and to learn. Thank you so much for listening to this. We would love to talk with you further. Feel free to be in touch with us. Thank you.